All right. Welcome to what we are going to call episode 45 of the Athletic Philosopher podcast. We just keep rolling on here, don't we, team? I am your humble host, Jordan Goldstein, a former sport history, philosophy, psychology, sociology professor. Have a PhD, wrote some books, a couple articles, took a few stands. Can we say they kicked me out? Or can I say I left? It's a little bit of both, I think. Certainly am not allowed to be teaching at the academy anymore for a whole host of funky reasons. And now we do life coaching, fitness coaching, endurance training coaching, all of the above. None of the above, somewhere likely in between. And I'm very excited to talk to you today about something that I impress upon basically every client that I coach, every athlete, every individual. And that is the importance of small wins stacked together to create an unbreakable chain of consistent improvement. And I want to talk about how fitness stacks. And this is in anticipation of basically my entire racing gear next year, 2026, which is already mapped out and is going to be my biggest year yet when it comes to my own competitions and my own training, especially in the world of endurance. So I will spill the beans a little bit on what is going to happen, and then I want to talk a little bit about fitness stacking and confidence and assuredness and identity, but also a lot of the things that I mention in terms of fun, passion, creativity, imagination when it comes to crafting training, executing training, and finding those consistent little wins, those small wins that can stack together to build you quite an impressive foundation in body, mind, and spirit. Okay, first off, what the heck are you talking about with next year? Well, next year's a bit of a big deal. I am turning 40. Whoopee. Aging is awesome. Getting older is great. Not facetious at all. Like, the alternative is 1,000% worse. If you're not getting older, guess where you are. not living. So I'm grateful and blessed to be able to turn 40, and I want to celebrate that by going hard. And when I say go hard, that looks like training for and competing in an Ironman. Not because that is such an outlandish proposition for myself, more so because it takes a lot of stretching on my part in order to do the training. It's not the effort necessarily, the actual Ironman race, like on the day. That's not the thing that kind of gives me resistance to Ironman. It's the training. It's the 3 sport disciplines. It's having to stay on a little bit more of a structured training plan. It's having to buy equipment and gear and go to places, right? It's not like just having a pair of running shoes and being able to put them on and go. So that's like the resistance, but, right, I coach on an endurance training team, which is geared towards Ironman and triathlon. And for all the mindset adaptations that I can bring from the ultra running, endurance, sports psychology realm, actively being able to do the competition and then having done the competition is only going to enhance my my ability as a coach, specifically for endurance training. I believe triathletes can learn a tremendous amount from ultra runners. And it would be pretty arrogant to assume that ultra runners can't learn anything from triathletes. So I'm excited for that challenge. Also, swimming and biking are not foreign to me. There was a time in my 20s where I was biking outside frequently, swimming 2 to 3 times a week in a lap pool, and also trail running. And I remember my wife asking me, we were living in Toronto at the time, she said, why don't you just do a triathlon? Why don't you put them all together and do a race? And my exact words were, sounds like fun, but no one will do it with me. I'm not interested in the solo competitions. Like, training is enough of a squeeze for me. I love the training so much that I don't really need the competitions to anchor me into any consistent process. If I'm going to compete, it's going to be community based. It's going to be with other people, and only then, right after I've satisfied that desire, can I start to think about my own performance goals. Also, right, coaching on tribal training is going to be the 5th year of tribal training. Getting the tribal prof into the triathlon arena might be a nice little celebration for the team. I'm newsflash, I'm going to be doing the team Ironman. Everybody already knows this on the team, but we have our big team races, and part of the reason why I want to do the Ironman next year is because the team race that was identified is the Lake Placid Ironman, which I want to do that. I went to Lake Placid when I was a graduate student getting my PhD in sport history. We took a field trip. My 82-year-old professor / PhD supervisor, and I think it was 8 of us grad students. So we had 2 cars, and we road tripped from London, Ontario to Lake Placid, which is quite a bit of a drive. And we toured around the Winter Olympic facilities, and then after spending 2 days in Lake Placid, we drove up north to Montreal, and we toured around the Summer Olympic facilities up there. This was for our Olympic history class. And I went to Lake Placid, and I fell in love with it. It's like, if you're Canadian, it's like the Muskoka region, but with mountains, like with alpine mountains. It's just incredible, deep sapphire blue lakes and beautiful alpine peaks and forests, and oh my gosh, it's incredible. And the ability to run a big time race in the place where they've held 2 Winter Olympics before, I mean, this is just great. It's also relatively close to where I grew up, so there's the ability to potentially rope family in for a visit and to come and cheer me on. And I'm just very excited to be able to do that race with the team. And this is leading me to the realization that even though I have not been swimming and biking for a long time, I am more prepared right now to do an Ironman than I probably have ever been in my entire life. My fitness level is at an incredible level. And I don't want this podcast to just turn into me effectively like pounding my chest about, oh man, I'm in great shape and my fitness is good and I feel like I can do anything. But it kind of has to be as an example of this concrete idea of stacking small wins, using enjoyment, interest, and passion to support and provide foundation for consistency, and then allowing the consistency to do its thing. Okay. So let me just start this off by talking about the swim I just did. So the swim I just did was the longest continuous freestyle I have ever done in my life. And I'm not somebody who was a competitive swimmer, but I grew up knowing how to swim. I had a pool in my backyard. My parents made me take swim lessons all the way up until you have to get your lifeguard certification. So technically, I know how to swim. I know how to be in the water. I know multiple strokes. And I'm confident and comfortable. Now, when it comes to like being a competitive swimmer and racing, I ain't even close to that kind of an ability or league, but I can do it. And same thing with biking. I was never a competitive biker, but it's like you grow up in suburbia, you bike everywhere, all the time. And I used to bike to school. I used to love going out for, like 90-minute, 2-hour bike rides on the bike paths in the city that I grew up in. And this was something I continued to enjoy doing, going on just long bike rides, or going on a long bike ride to do an errand, for example, and then going to train, like doing a bike ride, doing a run. And when I was a professor, I loved swimming. It was the perfect activity for me to do in between my lectures. It lined up great with my teaching schedule. I never taught a class during the 1 hour that the pool was open at my university for the lap swimming, but I almost always had lectures right on the other side. So it was like my lecture would end at 11:30, the pool would open at 12, my next lecture would be 1:30. So I'd have just enough time to like go to my office, take a little bit of a breather, grab my gear, and get to the pool. Like get into the gym, get into the pool. Right when it opened at kind of 12, I would swim. I had a standard workout, which was a 1,000 meter workout, and I would do basically like intervals. I would do 3 kind of slow and then 1 fast, and I do 10 fast ones, and that gets you to 40 lengths, 1,000 meters in a 25-meter pool. And I loved it. I loved swimming. I was doing it like 3 times a week. So I have this base, but I haven't ridden a bike for distance. I don't know, 8 years. And I haven't swam in a pool ever since COVID shut my university down in March of 2020. Right? So the swim I just did today was the second swim back. Second swim back in over 5 years. I did the longest freestyle that I've ever done continuously. I aimed to do 100 lengths of a 25-yard pool. So that's, 1,000 yards? No. More than that. I'm not good. I'm not good with math, apparently. 2,500 yards. So longest swim, not stopping. I remember when I was swimming consistently for years, the idea of doing 40 laps or 80 lengths was a lot. So today I did 50 laps or 100 lengths. And let me tell you something. I could have kept going forever, it felt like. I take the metrics with a grain of salt because, number one, like the measuring is not the most accurate. And there's just a lot of variables at play. But there are a couple things that stick out to me. Right? I've got my smartwatch, and the heart rate data is not great on this. It's not super accurate in terms of like its overall. But relative to itself, it's pretty good. So I have this longest ever freestyle swim. What does the data look like? Well, I picked up about almost 10 seconds per 100 yards in the speed just from getting in the pool last week and being able to do it this week. Said my average was 1 minute and 46 per 100 yards, which I don't think's that bad, especially when you consider I don't wear a swim cap and I'm covered in hair on the top of me here, so I got a bit of drag, which is fine, just get a little bit stronger. So, the number looks good. The number that really sticks out to me, though, is the average heart rate, which was 65 BPM. That's like the same as me talking right now. If I was to tell you what my heart rate was sitting here and talking, it's 68, 69 on this watch. So that means this podcast is exerting my heart more than the 53-minute swim that I just did. Now, is that my actual heart rate? No. But I'm using the same instrument to measure both. So again, it's accurate to itself. It's not accurate absolutely. And like, wait a minute. Why is it so easy? Why is it so easy for me to be in the pool, to swim for 53 minutes in a row and not feel as if I even had a strip taken off? Like, when I go to my Garmin and it tells me the load is effectively like how much the duration and the intensity of your effort has sort of contributed to your to your fitness level. It said the load was 1. A 1 load. Now, to give you an example, yesterday I did a run on the road. It was a 6.2 mile run. So I did a 10K. It was, let me see. I did it in 46 minutes, just under 47 minutes, 46:54. This was during the high noon of the day. It was hot. It was like 90 degrees. And what was the load? I'm just going to get the stats right here. You can see that I definitely prepared for this one. Average heart rate, 151 beats per minute. So the run was 2.5 times as exerting. The load was 136. So the load was 136 on a 47-minute run. 53-minute swim, same watch, says the load was 1. Effectively, the watch is telling me that I worked out for 53 minutes, but I barely even did anything. Like my body barely even did anything. Now, this is why I don't trust the metrics. Like my body is sore. I am certain that I burned a lot of calories because I want to eat a horse, right? So I'm not worried about, oh no, the load's only 1. To me, that shows, yo, my fitness is good. My fitness level is high. I am able to crank out continuous effort at a low intensity in a discipline that I haven't even been practicing for an incredibly long time. The longest I've ever done it and feeling the strongest I've ever done it. What's going on here? I haven't been swimming. So where does this fitness come from? Where do these gains come from? And this is why I wanted to record the podcast. It's because I haven't stopped training. It's because in the 5 years between getting out of the pool at the university and getting into the pool here in Chicago, I've been running. I've been trail running. I've been stacking 20, 25, 30-minute body weight, calisthenic, steel mace, steel club, weighted jump rope workouts all the time, never stopping. And that consistency has created an incredible fitness base to where I can do things now when I'm 39 that when I was 30 were not as easy. And I'm not here to be a braggart. Like, I honestly don't even care to share this kind of stuff, but I have to, because this is where the magic comes from when it's your fitness and you're a beginner or you've been out of the game for so long and you don't see any path back to how am I going to feel like I used to. A lot of the people who I help, these are former athletes. These are people who went for it or needed it when they were adolescents, teenagers, young adults. And they lost it. They lost that thing that made them want to push through it. And you are in such a position where there is no hope that you can ever get back because the mountain looks too big to climb. It's like you're at the bottom of, I don't even want to say Mount Everest because everybody's climbing Mount Everest these days. You're at the bottom of K2 or Annapurna, like the more dangerous mountains to climb. Like it's really treacherous. And somebody comes along and they say, hey man, just do it small. Start small. Let the small interlocking wins stack together. And before you know it, you'll have progress that you've never even imagined was a possibility for you. The mind is such a problem here. You know, the mind craves certainty. The mind craves predictability. It wants to know that step 1 automatically leads to step 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, way down on the line. And if there's any gap in there, the mind doesn't want to proceed. And then we'll get the excuses. And then we'll get the copes, or the justifications, or the backwards rationalizations, or whatever the mind needs to do to appease itself. So the only reason I share this stuff is to bring it back down to the foundational level. Fitness stacks, okay? Fitness stacks. So if you're somebody who may be a little out of shape, a little wide around the belly, we'll say, this message is for you. So I'm not here to say I'm fast at swimming. I have a great cardiovascular system. It's to say that love, passion, enthusiasm, and creativity have been my secret in creating a routine that has allowed me to be consistent. And through that consistency, I've become more interested in improving, in getting better, in pushing myself harder, right? And that pushing, even though it's been in running, trail running specifically, in terms of going longer and faster, taking on more difficult terrain, has compounded and given me an incredible fitness base. So here's how it's going to work for you. And I have to use my own example, but I'm going to sprinkle in some other examples from some of the people I've worked with and have helped along the way. First things first. You need to do it from the heart. Okay? I was somebody that always knew I wanted to be in good physical shape, especially as an adult. Like when I was growing up as a kid and as a teenager, the future vision of myself was always in shape. He was never out of shape. He was never wide around the belly. He was never sluggish going upstairs. He never had a problem getting winded. He never needed to be on medication because his body couldn't properly function. Like that was this vision that I had. I didn't know exactly how I was going to do it or what it was going to look like. I just knew that that had to be my reality. That had to be my reality. You know, as with a lot of us who were athletes or athletic growing up, you kind of get into your early 20s and your early adult years. Your formal athletic career has been over now for a year, 2 years, or 3 years, unless you were lucky enough to be able to go on and play at college on a varsity team or something like that. You don't have that seriousness of competition. You don't have the camaraderie of the team environment to push you in training or to even just make you want to show up. You know, for me, I was a high-level soccer player. But in my last, 2 years, my commitment to the game was waning. I signed up for teams, and I had made commitments and promises, but I wasn't super enthusiastic about, the training and getting better, and in my last year, I didn't even want to play for a highly competitive team. When I was 14, 15, 16, I wanted to play on the best possible team I could get on, if that meant riding the bench and being a sub, but being able to go to like the provincial championships. That was the deal that I would love to have made. And I did make that deal a couple times, but when I was 17 and 18, I was just like, I like playing soccer. I like hanging out with the guys. My interests are kind of moving into a different place, and they moved into music. So I was really trying to push myself in music, and athletics kind of took a back seat. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, I'm not playing any sports. Maybe I'm playing a pickup hockey game once a week. I did university rec, but that's just like, that's with your boys and your friends, and you're not doing a practice or anything like that. You're not doing a practice or anything like that. And all of a sudden, it's like 5 years go by, and you're not working out. You're not exercising. You're not active. And how do you get it back? And I struggled to get it back, right? One of the things that really hooked me into needing to get back was signing up for a rec soccer league, an indoor soccer league, with one of my buddies who found a good one. And these guys, like the guys who we hooked up with, they like to run practices. And I remember going to this bubble on a Friday night. I think it was like 9 o'clock when they got the time. And I went to my first practice in probably like 10 years, and I was sweating and I was like hunched over, and we weren't even playing a game. And I loved the exertion. I fell in love with that feeling of going hard outside of a game context. And I rediscovered that passion for pushing myself physically. And I wanted to try and figure out, oh my gosh, how do I keep this going? I can't have just soccer practices with 20 other guys all the time when I feel like I need to work out. So I just started experimenting, and I was curious, and I started trying different things. This led me to the pool, which was the place where I found my first consistent success with fitness as I was getting my master's and my PhD. Swimming was something I found I could commit to and show up, 2 times a week. I was on campus. The pool was right there. I had a flexible schedule as a student. I had a good buddy who also was getting in the pool with me. So again, giving me what I needed. But I still couldn't really sync up with weights or calisthenics or cross training or something that was more regular than just like a 2 times a week touch or a 1 time a week touch, which is not enough to get in shape or stay in shape or progress your fitness. And so I tried bodyweight calisthenics. I tried doing some machine work down in the little gym that was in our apartment building, which had a few weight machines, and I think there was a rower and a very bad treadmill and, and a couple of really horrible bikes, but I would be going down there and I'd be pedaling or I'd be lifting and I'd be pushing, but I didn't really have any orientation or aim, and I wasn't really excited. I had swimming, something I enjoyed, but it wasn't enough, and I wasn't like in love with swimming. Then I found trail running. Trail running opened up like everything for me, changed my life. Because the moment I did it, within the very first kilometer, I was hooked. I was addicted. Like I needed to come back. I want to do this. I want to always be doing this. I don't want to just be doing this tomorrow. I want to be doing this in 50 years. And so passion, love, enthusiasm built my base. It built the foundation for what eventually became consistent action. But not at the beginning. It wasn't at the beginning. I didn't have it at the beginning. I needed to use my heart to push me through resistance and adversity to stick with it. And then once I found trail running, it was, what's the rhythm? How many times can I do this without getting injured? How many times do I need to push hard in order to go for a PR? How far do I go? How long can I run? How long do I enjoy running? How fast do I want to go? Right? And through a couple years of just iterating and refining and adapting and being creative with the trail running, I sort of figured out my style on the trails. I love pushing, but only when the time is right. In trail running, you're not going to be setting a PR in the dead of winter or in the hot of summer. If you want to go for a PR, that's a springtime, late springtime, or early fall time activity. So I automatically now had these 2 seasons where I knew I got to push, where I could try to go for a PR. And that sort of just oriented what I was going to do over the winter to lead into spring, and then how I was going to train in the summer in order to get to the fall. And running this for, a couple of years is what allowed me to get faster and to be able to push distance. And, you can feel yourself getting stronger. You can feel yourself getting more fit. But I'll tell you what, it wasn't because I was crushing volume. It was because I was creating something sustainable where I could be consistent. And here's like the second part. So 1 starts with love, fun, joy, enthusiasm, passion. Then it's expressed through creativity, iteration, exploration, curiosity. Number 2, make sure you train in a way that you want to show up the next day. So many people train in a way that they hate what they're doing in the moment, and it makes them regret the fact that they did it, and they don't show up the next day. Going too hard, not going hard enough. Having the wrong expectation of what it's going to be like, fitting it into your schedule, maybe like causing a logistical nightmare because you didn't properly plan out your day. So many people, when they're getting back into fitness, they train in a way that precludes them from being excited and enthusiastic about the next day of training. I didn't even want to do day 1. Ugh, I feel bad. Now I got to do day 2? Man, this sucks. I only imagine it's going to get worse for day 3. Day 10 must be a nightmare. They never make it past day 2. So you got to train in a way that makes you want to show up the next day. And oftentimes this looks like a training session that lands between a 4 and a 7 in terms of my effort level. 4 is like really easy. 7 is, that's a good training session, but I feel good. Like I don't feel sore. I don't feel beat up. I'm not on the side of the road puking. Like I feel good. And when I wake up tomorrow, I'm going to actually have the energy and I'm going to have the the enthusiasm to get back at it. And why do I want to get back at it? Well, it goes back to point number one. Because I enjoy it. Now we have the building blocks for stack. Now we can start stacking. Now, in my estimation, right, we have a way forward. So again, I'm going to use my example here. Trail running. I started out running basically 35 minutes at a time, no more. And I was running very intensely. Like, we'll call this hard running, where I'm up at my higher thresholds. My 3 rules, my 3 stipulations for running. This is exactly how I used to do it. Sprint at the gate. Like, just get yourself into a position where you got to hold on as fast as possible. Go fast. Then ease back when you need to. So sometimes that might just be like going as fast as possible for the first 2 minutes and then recognizing it's time to settle in. Sometimes that was like for like the first mile got to be the fastest mile. Different times. At different times, I'm doing something different. Second is when you see a hill, sprint up the hill. Even if you're going slow, even if it's, not that great of a run, sprint up a hill, you're tired. You've done work. Like, your body will feel it, and you'll feel accomplished. And then the third one was last kilometer is the fastest. So absolutely, sometimes that would be true, but it's more about like that idea of the relative effort. Like, the last kilometer, I want to measure, and I want to aim my performance so that when I get to that final kilometer, I can empty the tank. And I've got a tank that can get me there, but also that can't be emptied. And that was my style, and I loved it. But that's a brutal style. Like, that's hard. So initially, the way that I stayed consistent with trail running was to make a rule that I never did trail running 2 days in a row. Well, it was simple. You go hard in trail running. The next day, you supplement the body, right? You do cross training. You do something that's going to make your body stronger and more capable of trail running the next time you go out. And I would max out my trail running, like 2 or 3 times a week. So I'm not even running 4 times. So now I've got space to work on my legs, work on my upper body, work on my shoulders, work on my cardiovascular, right? Supplement the activity that you love once you've fallen in love with it. Then you're going to have the discipline to restrain yourself because you don't want to burn out. You don't want to overtrain. If I want to keep trail running, what's the worst thing I can do? I can injure myself. So consistency is built on an understanding of a pattern of rhythm, right? Of hard, of easy, of listening to the body, of pushing when it's appropriate, of pulling back and restraining, but always keeping this idea in mind that I need to train in a way to make the next day a good day. And if I got a rest day, well, that means that the session before the rest day is the big day. So I can max out, and if I don't feel enthusiastic about training or my body's a little sore and banged up, guess what? Right in my plan. I don't need it, right? But on the other days, leave a lot in the tank. So training in a way that makes you enthusiastic to show up the next day is how you gain consistency. Once you've identified love as your foundation, which is the whole pillar, right? That's like the whole secret sauce or the glue that keeps it all together. So we've got an activity you love. We've got train in a way that allows you to show up the next day. Then we've got actualizing it, realizing it, executing it, holding yourself to account. This is where being adaptable and being curious and being creative just like absolutely wins the day. So on days where zeros are real possibilities, I want to put up 10s. This is a scale of 1 to 100. So a 10 out of 100 is not very good. But you know what it is? Infinitely times better than 0. I can't stack a 0. I can stack ones. I can stack twos. I can stack any number. I can stack any outcome except one that isn't done. I cannot have zeros. So anytime I'm able to push the ball forward, I do so, knowing that I am adding a layer. I'm adding a piece. And I don't care if this piece is small, if it's one off. If it's one off, it makes no difference. But let's just take a 365-day year, for example. Let's do a little bit of math on the fly. I am somebody that goes every day. I go every day. But I'm not 100% every day. If you look up my training, you'll see that there's never a day where I'm not hitting start on my watch to do some kind of an activity unless I didn't charge my watch or I just forgot. Like, I assure you. The only time there's a rest day is if it's like somehow it's like a travel day where it just doesn't make sense for me to get up early and bang out a 15-minute body weight workout, which is what I usually do, or to get a run in or a workout after I've gotten the travel. I think in the past 10 years, I could count on both my hands the days I've missed. And again, I'm not bragging. But you want to know how you stack fitness? This is how you stack fitness, guys. This is how you take little bricks and you build a castle. So if it's 365 days and instead of zeros on whatever, let's say 10% of the days, let's just say 36, right? If I put up, and we're thinking about scores out of 100 here. So if I'm training, whatever, 5 days a week, and my scores are like 50, 60, 70, 80, these are big blocks, right? Those are big blocks in my foundation. And if all my other days are zeros, nothing happens, right? But if I can throw in some 10s and some 25s, maybe a 32, some awkward number, well, guess what? Now I'm filling in the gaps. Now I'm still progressing. I'm still stacking my fitness. And this is built off of a training philosophy that I've, when I talk about leaving in the tank and consistency, this isn't necessarily my own thing. I lifted this from one of the best fight trainers in the world, Philosopher, who was Georges St. Pierre's trainer when Georges St. Pierre was pound for pound maybe the best fighter in the world. I'm talking like the mid 2010s or so, late 2000s, early 2010s. And I saw this interview with Firas Zahabi. It was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and this was like 2015. So this was before Joe Rogan got super duper big, but he's still, in 2015, he was still pretty big. And Firas has this incredible 20-minute segment. It's a clip. It's on YouTube. And if you just search up Joe Rogan, train smarter, not harder. Joe Rogan, train smarter, not harder. Like, this is where I got this idea of consistency stacks. And it all clicked to me when Firas Zahabi was talking about the way that Russian wrestlers train versus American wrestlers, and why the Russian wrestlers always clown the Americans. The Americans, they would have sort of like 3 training sessions a week where they would go balls, where they would go so hard that they were not physically capable of showing up the next day to work on wrestling. Versus the Russian athletes, who he described most of their training sessions as playful, playing around, sparring, practicing technique, not necessarily going hard in terms of physical intensity, but they're there like every day. So how good is their technique? How good is their experience? How good is their understanding of the activity? It's like light years ahead of the Americans, and they clown them because it's not like the American intensity translates that well to competition. You're telling me like 2 wrestlers pitted against each other, like they're both going to be super duper intense, guys. The one who knows how to wrestle better is likely going to win. Okay? That's just how it is. They've stacked technique. They've stacked experiences. They show up 6 days a week instead of 3 days a week. They get more work done. And here is how it works mathematically. I was trying to do the calculation with my 365 days, or that's bad. That's not clear. This is that same idea, far more effectively communicated. Thank you, Faraz. You're much better at this than I am, but you also probably prepared a little bit more. This is totally on the fly for me. We're at 40 minutes. Pull-ups. Who's going to do better? You just put a pull-up bar in your house somewhere, and now day one, let's just say two hypothetical people. We got day one for person A and person B. Person A goes to failure, and let's just say failure is 10. Let's say failure is 10 for both people. So person A does 10 pull-ups on day one. But because they went to failure, they can't do pull-ups the next day. They got to wait a full other day to do pull-ups. And then they come back and they do another 10. Then they can't do any more pull-ups. Okay? So let's say that this person does pull-ups 3 times a week. Now, how many pull-ups have they done? They've done 30. Okay. Person A has done 30. Person B, if they're to failure is 10, well, what happens if we just go to 70%? Person B does 7. But you know what they can do? Show up the next day. So they can do 7 more. And you know what they can do? Show up the next day. So they can do 7 more. So in a 5-day period, person A has gone to max 3 times, and they've done 30 push-ups. Person B, pull-ups. Person B has gone to 75%, and they've done 35 pull-ups. So they've almost done 20% more pull-ups. But you know what else they don't have? Soreness. They don't have fatigue, right? They also have enthusiasm to come back again and again and again. What do you think is going to happen in week 2 between person A and person B with this method? What do you think is going to happen over a year? Who's going to be able to do more pull-ups in one round? If I say, you person A, you do your training, person B, you do your training. Let's come back in a year and do a one set pull-up max challenge. Who do you think is going to win, person A or person B? My money's on person B every time. And that's Faraz Zahabi's point. And that's my point here. Show up, put in good work. Don't kill yourself. Show up the next day. Put in good work. Don't kill yourself. Show up the next day. Put in good work. Show up the next day. Put up bad work. Show up the next day. Put up bad work. Throw up 5s, 6, 7s, 2s, 3s, 1s. Maybe the occasional 9. You're going to get so bloody fit, you won't even recognize who you are. You won't even, you'll be doing things that just blow your mind. I had another example of this earlier in the week where I played my very first round of golf. Okay? Now, you can be a killer in trail running, but move it over to a different sport, and all of a sudden, there's muscle weaknesses. This is fatiguing, right? Golf is a demanding sport. I'm the guy who, I got to walk the course, number one. So you're walking 18 holes, which means that's 4 hours of walking. I also carry my bag. So now we're into kind of a rucking situation where I'm carrying 30 plus pounds on my back as I'm walking. I'm putting the bag down. I'm picking it up. So there's now there's lifting. How many times you do that? 4 or 5 times a hole times 18, 100 times lifting up the 30 pound, putting it on your back. And now I'm rucking as well. Usually these rounds, you're walking 7 miles, 8 miles. So these are not light endeavors when it comes to fatigue. Then you're swinging. You're doing all the swings. You're in your stance. You're also using your mental concentration. It's an extremely fatiguing and tiring endeavor. And that first 18 holes of the year, for me, historically, has always been, I'm just happy to get to the end, and have a swing intact, because my muscles are generally sore and I'm a little bit tired. Like, I'm a little bit fatigued. I didn't feel any of that the first round. Like, my muscles never felt fatigued. I didn't really lose my mental concentration. I was just with it the entire round, physically and mentally. And I took note of that, being the first round that I had played this year, and think, this is really great evidence of the fitness stacking that's going on in my life. Like, I'm just more capable. I think I'm just generally more strong. I'm generally more fit in terms of my cardiovascular. I can look at my watch and it can tell me that. But again, I just told you guys, I don't necessarily even believe this thing most of the time. That's the thing that I believe. I believe the feel. I believe in, I just swam for 53 minutes, the longest I ever have, and it feels like I didn't even do the swim. Like, that matters more to me. But all this is just made possible by showing up for 15 minutes on a day where somebody else would put a 0. Like, I'll do my 100 push-ups and my 200 squats and my 100 lunges on both sides. And I'll stop at 16 minutes, and I won't feel the need to do anything else. And sometimes it's like 4 days of the week are like that, where it's like, okay, I can only do 15-minute workouts. Whatever. That's fine. You know what I'm not doing? Overburdening myself. You know what I'm not doing? Injuring myself. You know what I'm not doing? Making it so I hate showing up the next day. You know what I am doing? Cross-training, strengthening my body so that when I go out and I go hard in things that I want, it doesn't take me 3 days to recover. I can get right back on the horse. Like, I can do an ultra, and then the next day I can go out for a jog or hit a jump rope, right? Or get in the pool. I live a life of constant motion, but that individual session on its own is never this big, gigantic, impressive thing. Very rarely. It all fits together. It all stacks over time with consistency. And that's the message. If you want to be someone who's continually progressing and feeling as if their fitness is improving without hating the process, because let's be real, hard training is hard. Like, really hard training, structured training, disciplined training, going to the max on your intervals and your intensity. Like, that is hard. There's a certain amount of people who can thrive under those conditions, but most of us, we're not interested in that type of effort level, especially if we are amateurs. We're not getting paid to do it. And if we're doing it out of love, the idea of like hurting ourselves through the process is, that's not a great signal either. So I think that this kind of an approach is most appropriate for, these are just off the dome, but like 9 out of 10 people, 95 out of 100 people in fitness are going to find the consistent success by doing something like what I've been describing this entire podcast. And it may seem as if, but that's not as serious, or that's not as intense, or you're not committed because you're only training 3 hours a week. And don't you need to be like 5 hours or 6 hours or 7? Like, again, I coach on an endurance training team. Like, serious training doesn't start until you hit 7 hours a week, guys, like 8 hours a week. I don't even know if I've ever trained for 7 hours in 1 week. I don't even think I have, to tell you the truth. I've just been training for 3.5 hours a week for 12 years in a row. And there are no zeros. And I honestly think that's better. Like, I'm not a performance coach, but when it comes to, the everyday athlete, that's a pretty good way to maximize your performance too, because it also gives me the flexibility of finding the pockets of opportunity in my very busy, hectic, and non-standard life, which if you're like me in your 30s or your 40s and you got kids and a job, like, week to week, it's not the same. Day to day is not even really the same. And the moment you think it is, you're setting yourself up for a fall when something changes. So to come back down, circle around, and land this guy, fitness stacks. Fitness stacks when you have a process that's built, number one, on a foundation of love, an understanding of easy wins interlocking together to form gigantic structures over a long duration. You put those two things together, you become inevitable. You become inevitable. I never thought when I was going to be turning 40, like, that's the year I'm going to do the Ironman. And it's going to be a testament to what a 40-year-old body can do. And it's like, honestly, I don't even care about that stuff. To me, it's like I could be 39, I could be 55. Like, the age thing is honestly not that big of a factor in any of this. It's kind of like a nice little, it's like a serendipitous moment. Like, it's a pretty wrinkle. It's a pretty wrinkle in a larger tapestry, something like that. But what's even more impressive to me is that if somebody asks me to go do something, I can do it. Hey, you want to go train for the Ironman? Yeah, why not? I'm fit. Not only am I fit, I'm the fittest I've ever been. And I can continue to do that. So long as I stack tiny little wins along the way. Not getting so worried about the day-to-day process, what each individual session looks like, but being able to stretch the time horizon, zoom out and see the 10 years, the 11 years, the 12 years of training that I've been engaged in, and recognizing that that's the process that has brought me to where I'm at. And that's the process that I want everybody listening to try and find within themselves and within their life. Now, I haven't given many examples, so let me just finish this off with one example of how this works. So I'm going to shout out my boy, Chris. Call him CB. This guy came to me. He was a former athlete, former varsity athlete, had fallen off, aimed his life as an adult too much towards work, not enough towards play. When we started working together, going for a 3-kilometer run was death. Death. I hate running. I can't do it. He asked me one of the best questions any person I've ever worked with has asked me. He said, what do you count as exercise? Because I want to be consistent like you, and I want to know what's like the bare minimum that you do to make it feel as if you accomplished an exercise session or, did the work for that day to give yourself a check inside your mind. Basically what he's asking is like, how do you get a 1 out of 100 instead of a 0? Which is an excellent question because I've said, how valuable is a 1 over a 0? I can't stack a 0. I can stack ones though. Ones I can stack. I need a lot of them, to be fair, but I can work with a 1. Can't do anything with nothing. Can't do anything with a 0. So here was my answer. I said, anything that puts me into a present moment of pain, anything that allows me to zoom into the physical activity that I'm doing and only focus on the resistance and the exertion that I need to bring in order to move past the exertion, I'm going to count. I'm going to count that. So if that's like 5 minutes of doing sprints in front of my house, yeah, that counts because I guarantee you one of those sprints, the only thing you're going to be thinking about is, oh my gosh, my lungs are on fire and I just need to get through the finish line. This is why like 15 to 20 minutes is a real sweet spot for me when it comes to like push-ups and lunges or dips or bodyweight calisthenics because I don't like those. I don't like them. I don't feel good. But if I do them for about 15 minutes, I have noticed that there's like 1 to 2 minutes where I'm totally ensconced in the activity. I'm really focusing on my push, for example, or like, or getting like my foot position correct on my reverse lunges. And I may only be burning like, 90 calories. It's like, who cares? Like, done. Check. Move to the next day. Right? So this is when things really started to click for him. And I started getting messages like, at work, Christmas, like party, at a hotel, just did 15 minutes of push-ups and dips before going down to the reception. And it's like, that's the win. Like, the win isn't like the hour run. The win isn't the 90 minutes in the gym. The win is eking out a 15 out of 10 when previous you would have thrown up a 0 and said, excuses. right? So he internalizes this. He internalizes the small win stack, and he starts to apply that to running, which is some activity which he doesn't enjoy. And then it's like all of a sudden, hey, I'm running 5K. Hey, I'm running 10K. And we initially did a 3-month coaching package. And to finish it off, I took him for a 10K trail run. It's actually an 11K. No, 10K trail run with 1,100 feet of climb. Because he told me he didn't like hills. So I was like, okay. And he did so much better than he thought he could. Why? Because he had been stacking these like 15-minute body weight workouts and making his body strong and robust so that he didn't feel muscle soreness and fatigue while on the trails. We didn't push to a high cardiovascular rate for him, so he wasn't like... But he'd also been running. He'd also been biking. So he had been slowly building up a base. All of a sudden, just within the small little 3 months, from 3 kilometers on the road, flat as any prairie you ever saw, death, can't do it, feel like shit, to in 3 months, we took down a 10-kilometer trail run with 1,100 feet of climb. And you know what he did the moment after we finished? He drove back up to where he lived and found the closest trailhead. He found the closest trail. He's like, I'm running here tomorrow. I think it was the next day when he went and ran. But like, that's how quickly this stuff can work for you guys. That's how quickly it can go. It was 3 months. You internalize the small win stack. You find something you're interested in. You find a supportive community or a friend or a guide or a coach who can help you. And bam, within 3 months, the guy changed his entire life. Now, we're on the same endurance training team. We ran a 50-miler in the desert. He only was able to make it 36 miles, which was a massive, massive achievement from where he was like 18 months earlier, which was, I can't even run 3 kilometers on a flat ground. And he crushed these 36 miles, and everybody was super impressed by how technically proficient and sound he was. Buddy is about to crush a 70.3, a half Ironman on the weekend. Killer, bro. You're a killer. Do you think 2 years ago he thought that this was possible? No. It starts with believing in the power of 10 minutes of push-ups in your hotel room. And do it over and over again. And look at where it's taken him. And that's where it can take you. And that's why I wanted to talk about this today. Not to show off. I don't care. It's so that you can be a believer in yourself. It's so that you can be a believer in the little bits of progress that you put into working on yourself will improve you. And this works in the fitness world like so clearly, but I mean, this is a repeatable pattern for anything you want to improve at, for anything you want to get good at, for anything that you care about doing well. And that's it. Small win stack, fitness stacks. You can become a beast in way less time than you think. But without frequency, without consistency, without going all the time, none of it matters. Which is why you got to love it and why you got to work out in a way to help you show up the next. All right. You guys are set up for success. Let's do it. Peace and love. Talk to you guys in the next one.